It's 12 minutes past the hour. Insight on Business brought to you by FWRSA. FWRSA Tax, working hard on your tax return until the cows come home. You got that done yet, kids? No, it's coming up. April 15th is rolling around the corner, and you get to do the patriotic duty and pay your taxes. I've always, you know, I was talking once with a politician, and I thought he made the greatest comment about taxes. He said, taxes are the patriotic, paying your taxes are the patriotic things to do. What we need to work on is how we are using those taxes, how we are sustaining those taxes, and the stewardship of the tax money that comes in. That's pretty good. Pretty good comment. But I'm not political, remember? All right, let's talk radio. Ladies and gentlemen, in studio with us is Jeff Delvaux. Jeff is the general manager for the Des Moines Radio Group, a series of stations here in Des Moines owned by Saga Communications. Saga Communications, SGA on the New York Stock Exchange, by the way, kids, SGA. Saga Communications owns about 25 broadcast facilities across the United States, and this is both radio and television. So we're going to be talking with somebody who's ankle deep in the world of broadcast media, especially here in Des Moines and some other places that he's been in his past life. Saga Communications, by the way, traded publicly last Thursday anyway at $46.26 a share. Not too shabby. Congratulations. That was a pretty nice gift for before the holiday.
Absolutely. We've done well. We're a small company. We have about 89 radio stations and television stations in 25 markets. We're owned. I mean, we're on the stock exchange, but Mr. Ed Christian is kind of a sole proprietor in a lot of ways. runs the operation, but the best thing about working for him is it's me. I get to run my market out here with occasional insight from him, but basically they give us a budget. They say meet the budget, and they leave us alone.
Sure. You know, to kind of set the mood here a little, Jeff, I mentioned that I started in broadcasting shortly after Marconi invented the radio. And it's almost true. You know, how long have you been in the business?
26 years.
26 years. And so over that time period, Jeff, you've seen lots and lots of changes. I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect when I started in the broadcasting field, I worked for a single operator. You know, it was a family-owned or a business-owned operations. Maybe the banks used to own radio stations at one time. Newspapers owned radio stations at one time, or some wealthy individual in a company started one in 1926.
Exactly.
You know, and they were all family owned. That's been a big change with the amalgamation of all these large corporations now owning broadcast facilities. What else has changed?
Well, that's been the big one, at least in the 90s. You know, there was a time when people came to the RAB convention, which is our, Radio Advertising Broadcast Bureau, and they had T-shirts on that said I work for, and they had all these different companies crossed off. I've been very fortunate. I've moved a lot, but I've worked for independents quite a bit, partially because of my personality. I kind of tend to do things a little bit differently. I'm kind of a throwback to community service, to doing things local and live, which is why I love Saga. That's really been the hallmark of our company. We do things local and live, and I think that's the biggest thing you're seeing is, if you go back to what the FCC defines a radio station, community service has kind of gone by the wayside, and they've it's really, I don't want to say a farce, but it's certainly questionable as to what the community service really is.
You know, you just mentioned a tagline that you like to use often, local and live. So I'm going to ask you the question, how can that be accurate if in reality the Des Moines Radio Group is really run out of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, I think, or somewhere in Michigan.
Grosse Pointe.
Grosse Pointe, Michigan, under a blanket of 29 other broadcasting facilities. I want you to explain that a little bit and set up the differentiation between, okay, yes, we are a corporate entity traded on the New York Stock Exchange, but we're still local and live, as opposed to perhaps other broadcast entities.
This is why you're good at what you do. Great question. It really, the difference is our company has gone out at great pains, and we can talk about this a lot, about hiring good people and letting them do their jobs. And what Ed Christian and our Grosse Pointe management team has done is they're really strong on finding the right managers for the right markets. Then they give us a budget and they say, go make your budget. Mm-hmm. And if you make your budget, you get to go to Florida in November and do your budget meeting. And if you don't make your budget, you get to go to Grosse Pointe and do your budget. And it's usually, fortunately, I haven't had to go to Grosse Pointe in my 5 years as general manager.
It's a beautiful place, by the way. I used to live in Detroit.
It is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Our corporate office, it's right on the water. And
sure.
I don't mind the drive up there. I mean, they fly us in. But we also have Mr. Christian spent some time down in Sarasota, so I love going down there. But the biggest difference is we really are local and live. I mean, if you look at Laser 103.3, Star 102.5, KIOA 93.3, and Light 104.1, we're primarily live all day long. All of our morning shows and most of our all-day shows, which is an expensive proposition.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's the biggest thing you're seeing with these consolidations is they've eliminated the disc jockeys, and one, there's a person sitting in Atlanta who's on 100 stations across the country, good, bad, or indifferent. And I really don't have an opinion about that because some of those do pretty well. I will say about us, why I love working for Saga, is I like the ability to be able to go out and do events, to do live, to be able to do the live broadcasts, and people know the on-air personalities. We can do. I was watching you do doing a testimonial,
mm-hmm.
or a live ad for somebody.
Sure.
Can't do that if the people don't have an association. And our staff really does a lot of testimonial type ads. They work really hard at it, and they're part of the community. So to me, that's a big deal. We actually saw in this market about a year ago one of the Heritage morning shows blown up for a station for a syndicated show out of Indianapolis. So that was kind of hard to believe. I mean, I think it kind of backfired because we've certainly have benefited from that. In fact, have one of those employees working for us. So.
Yeah. Well, one of the things exactly you do, and it's been a pleasure having her on the morning show over the past several months. And I have to say something as well, and I mean this with all sincerity. You have a very popular female morning host along with Maxwell Schaefer, who, by the way, must work his tail off. He's involved in everything in this community. But at the same time, when Pam fell ill for, I think, a second or third time with cancer.
Her second cancer.
Her second cancer, yeah. She took some time away. You continued to broadcast the show as the Maxwell and Pam show, and having Heather in there as a sidekick for that recovery period of time while she was undergoing chemotherapy. That, my friend, is a class act. And I have no idea where those kinds of decisions come from. I would suspect they come from you with full support from the folks in Grosse Pointe.
Precisely. That's local.
That's local.
That's local. And I have to tell you, the audience is what really brings it home to us. I mean, there was a lot of comment about Heather being on the air, and of course, she's a very popular personality in this town. Yet, I think people were very surprised that we always said it was Maxwell and Pam, and Heather was always I'm in for Pam, and of course, I don't know if you know, but today's Pam's first day back.
Mm-hmm. So April Fool's Day too.
Yeah. So we were getting a little bit of really is Pam coming back?
Yeah.
But it's been a wonderful reunion. She came in Thursday. She seems to be recovered. Obviously with this kind of a thing, who knows? You
just don't know. A little bit of housekeeping before we go on. You mentioned some of the stations. How many stations in the Des Moines Radio Group?
We have 7.
7 stations, and along a wide and varied spectrum of demographics.
Yes, very strategically, as you know. You got to be strategic, and they're strategically placed so we can cover most demographics. In fact, we pretty much have 12 to 65 covered, female, male. You start out with our Hits 99 station, which is a 12 to 30-year-old station. Then you have Laser, which is 103.3, which runs male, it's predominantly male, 25-34. Star 102.5, which is that female 25-44. Then you have, Light 104 and KIOA, and of course KRNT and Praise 940. So, yeah, we really cover quite a gamut, and that goes back to your question to me about is radio viable?
Right. Yeah, and that's something we're going to talk about when we come back. We're going to be talking with Jeff Delvaux. We're going to talk about the business side of radio for business. What should you know when you're looking to advertise, and it may happen to be on a radio station? What kind of questions should you as a business person be asking? What kind of answers should you expect from the salesperson that comes by? Believe me, every salesperson has a great story, but it's up to you, if you're running a business or an entity, to ask the right questions and make sure that you're making the wise buy. Jeff Delvaux will continue from the Des Moines Radio Group. This is Insight on Business. My name's Michael Libbie. We are powered by Webcast One Live.